It was already past midnight, and the school bus had broken down on a lonely mountain road. The teachers decided it was too dangerous to wait outside, so they found an old roadside motel nearby. Surrounded by towering pine trees and steep rocky hills, the place looked like it hadn't seen too many guests in years. Still, it was the only option. The teachers divided the kids into different rooms after dinner. Daniel was thrilled. He got to share a room with his best friends, Chris and Adam. From their window, they could see a shimmering lake hidden deep in the forest. The three boys remembered stories from their last school trip, how a couple of kids snuck out at night and became legends back at school. Excited, they made a plan: sneak out of the motel after midnight, reach the lake, take some photos, and come back before anyone noticed. As soon as the motel guard dozed off, the boys slipped out. The lake didn't seem far at first, but the deeper they went into the woods, the longer the trail stretched. Half an hour passed, then nearly an hour, yet the lake never appeared. The cold night air froze their fingers, and the forest grew eerily silent. Their phones showed no signal. Daniel suggested they cancel the plan and head back. Using their flashlights, they tried retracing their steps, when suddenly Chris and Daniel realized Adam was gone. "Adam!" they shouted, but only the sound of running footsteps echoed nearby. Terrified, but unwilling to abandon their friend, they followed the sound through the dark woods. Soon, the footsteps stopped. In the silence, they heard something else, the dull thud of someone digging. They crept closer and froze. Adam was crouched in the dirt, digging a hole with his bare hands. When they called out his name, he turned. His eyes were pitch black, empty sockets staring straight at them. Daniel rushed to him, shaking his shoulder, but Adam let out a guttural scream and shoved him so hard he crashed into the ground. His strength was unnatural, his body convulsing as if possessed. Then, just as suddenly, he collapsed unconscious. But when Adam opened his eyes again, he was no longer himself. His voice was not his own, it was deeper, almost inhuman. Chris looked over at Daniel, but to his horror, Daniel too had gone pale, his head bowed down. When he lifted his face, his eyes were black as well. Daniel bolted into the woods like a madman. The others had no choice but to chase him, their flashlights bouncing wildly. He ran straight toward an abandoned house, a crumbling relic hidden in the trees. Its rotting walls and broken windows suggested no one had lived there for decades. Inside, they found Daniel floating in midair, suspended by some invisible force. A withered old woman stood beneath him, muttering in a language they couldn't understand. Her skin sagged, her hair was wild and white, and her black eyes glowed in the dark. Terrified, Chris and Adam ran for their lives. As they scrambled down the stairs, the woman crawled after them on all fours like some monstrous insect. They burst through the doorway, sprinting blindly until they stumbled upon the very lake they had been searching for. But the lake wasn't calm, it churned violently, as if something beneath wanted to pull them under. Chris slipped and fell into the freezing water. Adam screamed, reaching for him, but it was no use. Something unseen dragged Chris into the depths. Adam barely managed to crawl out, collapsing on the shore before fainting. When he woke, he was back in the motel room. For a brief moment, he thought it had been a nightmare. But outside, police cars surrounded the motel. On the ground, covered with white sheets, lay the lifeless bodies of Chris and Daniel. The officers declared it a murder, but the locals whispered a different story. They said the motel stood near Cursed Woods, where a woman once lived in solitude. Years ago, she had been attacked and killed by nearby villagers, her body thrown into the lake. Ever since, her vengeful spirit haunted those who dared to enter the forest at night. If only the boys had known, maybe all three of them would still be alive. And remember, evil never dies, it waits. Subscribe now to The Silent Terror, because this story was only the beginning.